An arrogant millionaire. He lost his fiancée to another man, and to avoid showing any weakness, he has an audacious plan that will surprise you all. Before the story truly begins, why don't you comment below which city you're watching from? Enjoy the story, everyone. Michael Carter was a millionaire who was used to having the entire world right at his feet, commanding respect and admiration wherever he went. But this time, he found himself staring down at a wedding invitation from his ex-fiancée, Stella, who was now marrying another man. The pain of that loss cut deep into his heart, sharper than any business deal gone wrong. But as always, Michael refused to let even a hint of weakness show through his carefully crafted facade. He needed a plan, something bold and calculated to demonstrate to everyone, especially Stella, that he didn't care one bit about her betrayal. Suddenly, his eyes landed on Chloe, his maid, who was quietly organizing papers in the corner of the room, her movements efficient and unassuming. Chloe was young, undeniably beautiful, and she carried herself with a genuine, down-to-earth air that could work perfectly for what he had in mind. It was almost too ideal, he thought, as the idea began to form in his sharp mind. "Chloe, come here," he said in an authoritative tone that left no room for debate. Chloe hesitated for just a moment, her hands pausing mid-task, but she put down what she was doing and approached him cautiously. "Do you need something, Mr. Carter?" she asked, her voice as polite and composed as ever, though a flicker of curiosity danced in her eyes. "Yes, I do," Michael replied firmly. "I need you to accompany me to an event. It's personal." The proposal sounded absurd even to him as he said it out loud, but he pressed on, watching her reaction closely. Chloe looked at him with a mix of surprise and confusion washing over her face, her brows knitting together in disbelief. "Mr. Carter, I'm your maid, not an escort," she stated plainly, her tone steady but laced with a hint of indignation. Michael let out a brief, almost mocking laugh, as if her reaction was entirely predictable and somewhat amusing in its naivety. "I'm not asking, Chloe. I'm offering an opportunity. You'll be well paid for this. All you need to do is accompany me, look stunning, and engage in minimal conversation." Chloe felt a lump forming in her throat, the offer striking her as offensive on so many levels, yet the amount Michael suggested was irresistible, dangling like a lifeline in front of her financial struggles. Having worked for him for almost 2 years, she knew all too well how to navigate his authoritative manner, his demands that brooked no argument, but she had never expected something quite like this to come her way. She thought about her accumulating bills, the mounting debts that kept her up at night, and the course she so desperately wanted to start to better her future. "Why me?" she dared to ask, her voice barely above a whisper, challenging him in a way she rarely did. Michael gave her a direct, unflinching look, his eyes piercing as he assessed her. "Because you're simple, discreet, and—" He hesitated for a moment, choosing his words with care, different from everyone who will be there. The answer sounded like an insult masked as a compliment, a backhanded praise that stung, but Chloe swallowed her pride, pushing down the rising anger. "All right, I'll do it," she said after a long pause. Her decision made more out of necessity than desire. "But just for one night." Michael smiled, satisfied with her compliance, a smug expression crossing his features. "Excellent. We have a lot of work to do." As Chloe left the room, a wave of doubt flooded her mind. What consequences would come from accepting this deal with such an unpredictable, domineering man? She couldn't shake the feeling that this was the start of something far more complicated than a simple evening out. The next morning, Chloe barely had time to process what she had agreed to the night before, her mind still swirling with second thoughts and uncertainties. Michael had already taken full control of the situation, his efficiency as ruthless as ever. A luxury car arrived at her modest door to pick her up, the sleek vehicle a stark contrast to her everyday life, and it whisked her directly to a sophisticated boutique in the bustling city center, where high-end fashion reigned supreme. As soon as she entered the boutique, she was greeted by a stylist who seemed as intimidating as Michael himself, with a sharp gaze and an air of unyielding professionalism. "Miss Chloe, we're going to transform you," the woman announced with a critical look, her eyes scanning Chloe from head to toe as if appraising a raw canvas. Attendants bustled around, bringing in an array of dresses, shoes, and accessories, each item more extravagant than the last. Chloe felt like she was thrust into the middle of a high-stakes transformation reality show, where every piece chosen served as a reminder of just how distant Michael's opulent world was from her own simple existence. She tried to refuse the sky-high heels that she could barely balance on, her feet protesting at the unfamiliar height, but her objections were swiftly ignored by the team. Michael arrived shortly after, his presence commanding the room as he analyzed everything with a critical eye, his standards impossibly high. "She needs to look sophisticated but not artificial," he declared authoritatively, while the stylist nodded vigorously, adjusting accordingly. Chloe crossed her arms, feeling increasingly uncomfortable under the scrutiny, like a doll being dressed up for someone else's amusement. "Maybe I could choose something that makes me feel comfortable," she suggested tentatively, her voice laced with hope. Michael let out a short, dismissive laugh. "This isn't about comfort, Chloe. It's about impressing." The response made her blood boil, igniting a spark of resentment, but Chloe knew there was no point in arguing. Accepting this deal meant playing by his rigid rules, at least for now. After hours of adjustments, fittings, and endless trials that left her exhausted, Michael finally approved an elegant black dress that highlighted Chloe's natural beauty in a way that surprised even her. She looked at herself in the full-length mirror and barely recognized the poised woman reflected back, her usual self hidden beneath layers of luxury. For a brief moment she felt a surge of power, a glimpse of confidence she hadn't known she possessed. "Now this is it," Michael said, examining her as if she were a completed work of art, his approval grudging but evident. "All this seems a bit exaggerated," Chloe commented hesitantly, still adjusting to the unfamiliar elegance. Michael turned to her, his eyes fixed and intense. "Stella can't have any doubt that you are my choice." The name of his ex-fiancée hung in the air like a heavy cloud, a silent reminder of the true reason behind all this elaborate charade, fueling his determination. The next day, Michael hired an etiquette specialist to train Chloe on how to act like someone from high society, transforming her into a seamless fit for his world of glamour and pretense. For hours on end, she was instructed on every minute detail, how to walk with poise, how to smile just right without overdoing it, and even how to hold a champagne glass with effortless grace. The effort exhausted her physically and mentally, but it also irritated her deeply, chipping away at her sense of self. "I can hold a glass without help," she protested after dropping one for the third time, her frustration bubbling over. Michael, observing from a comfortable distance in the room, just shook his head disapprovingly. "You're here to impress, not to be average." Chloe took a deep breath, trying to stay calm amid the mounting pressure. "And why is all this so important to you, Michael? You already have everything: money, power, respect." For a moment he seemed disconcerted by the direct question, his usual composure cracking slightly, but he soon regained his impassive expression. "Some things can't be bought, Chloe. Let's just say this is personal." The answer didn't convince her one bit. It felt evasive, like he was hiding layers of resentment and unresolved pain. But she decided not to push further. It was clear there was more to his story than he was willing to reveal, a vulnerability buried under his arrogance. On the night before the wedding, Michael showed up at her door with a more serious expression than usual, his demeanor tense and focused. "Tomorrow, all eyes will be on us. Leave no room for doubts or mistakes." Chloe stared at him, exhausted from the constant training and endless demands that had worn her down. "Michael, why does this matter so much to you? Stella is just your ex." He gave a cold, calculated smile. "Stella isn't just my ex. She's the only person who challenged me and thought she could replace me." Chloe realized then that behind Michael's confident facade were deep insecurities he worked hard to hide. This wasn't just about Stella. It was about wounded pride, the need for control, and proving that no one could ever surpass him in any way. "So this is all just about stroking your ego?" she asked, challenging him directly. Michael narrowed his eyes, a flash of irritation crossing his face. "I don't expect you to understand, Chloe. Just stick to the plan." The tension between them was palpable, thick and unspoken, but Chloe chose not to prolong the argument. She knew that whatever happened next, her patience was about to be tested like never before. On the morning of the wedding, Chloe got ready with the help of a professional team Michael had hired, their expertise turning her into a vision of elegance. Her hair was styled flawlessly, cascading in soft waves. Her makeup was perfect, enhancing her features without overwhelming them, and the dress fit like it was made for her, something straight out of a fairy tale. When she saw herself in the mirror, for a brief moment she forgot everything. The plan, Michael, Stella. She felt different, confident, like she could conquer the world. Michael found her just before they left, dressed in an impeccable suit that accentuated his striking features. For the first time, Chloe noticed that despite his unbearable personality, he was undeniably handsome, with a charisma that drew people in. "You look adequate," he said, trying to sound indifferent, though Chloe caught the faint smile tugging at his lips. "Thanks, I think," she replied with a touch of sarcasm, masking her own nervousness. In the car on the way to the wedding venue, silence filled the space between them like an invisible barrier. Chloe tried to hide the nervousness she felt building inside her. She was about to step into a world that wasn't hers, next to a man who seemed incapable of feeling anything genuine or heartfelt. When they arrived at the grand venue, Michael looked at her one last time before stepping out of the car. "Remember, Chloe, today you're my partner. Act like you were born for this." She took a deep breath, meeting his gaze with determination. "I don't need to act, Michael. I just need to survive this." As soon as Chloe stepped out of the car, whispers began rippling through the crowd. All eyes at the wedding were on her and Michael, the elegant black dress that hugged her curves perfectly, and the confident posture she had practiced for hours seemed to work like magic. Michael walked beside her with his usual air of superiority, but this time there was something more in his stride, pride, perhaps, or satisfaction at how well his plan was unfolding. Chloe quickly realized she was in unfamiliar territory, a sea of luxury and pretense. The guests were a mix of powerful businessmen in tailored suits, glamorous socialites dripping in jewels, and a few minor celebrities flashing practiced smiles. Stella, the bride, stood in the distance, laughing with a group of friends, her wedding gown radiant under the lights. Chloe felt a tightness in her chest. It wasn't fear exactly, but a profound sense of being out of place, surrounded by people who lived in a completely different reality from her own humble life. "Don't let anyone intimidate you," Michael whispered in her ear, as if reading her thoughts, his breath warm against her skin. Chloe kept her head high as they walked toward the reception area, her steps measured and composed. Soon they were approached by an older man with a broad, welcoming smile. "Michael, I didn't expect to see you here, and with such a charming companion." Michael shook the man's hand firmly. "Of course I came, George. After all, Stella and I have history." The comment made Chloe raise an eyebrow in surprise, but she stayed silent, forcing a polite smile onto her face. As dinner began, Chloe noticed that Michael was incredibly skilled at maintaining shallow conversations while exuding an air of effortless superiority, charming the table without revealing much. She, on the other hand, did her best to keep up, nodding and responding when necessary. At one point, Stella finally approached them, her smile as sharp as the edges of her gleaming white dress. "Michael, what a surprise." She looked Chloe up and down appraisingly. "And who's your friend?" Before Michael could respond, Chloe extended her hand confidently. "Chloe, it's a pleasure to meet you, Stella." The bride seemed surprised by Chloe's poise, but shook her hand nonetheless. "The pleasure is mine. I didn't expect Michael to bring someone so charming." Clearly irritated by Stella's condescending tone, Michael interrupted smoothly. "Chloe has been an amazing companion. She understands me in ways few people ever could." Stella narrowed her eyes, studying Chloe as if searching for any cracks in her polished demeanor. "How interesting. We should talk later, Chloe. I'd love to get to know more about you." Chloe nodded politely, but she knew that invitation wasn't as innocent as it seemed. It was laced with curiosity and perhaps a touch of jealousy. As the night went on, Chloe felt more and more out of place. There were whispers, sidelong glances, and some women clearly mocking her behind her back, their laughter like needles pricking her confidence. She tried to focus on the promise she had made to herself, get through the night and leave with her dignity intact. During the dance portion of the evening, Michael approached her and extended his hand. "You're doing well. Now we need to dance."
"Dance? I don't—" She hesitated, her heart skipping a beat, but he was already pulling her onto the floor.
"Trust me," he said, holding her hand firmly. To her surprise, Michael danced with elegance, guiding her as if it were second nature, his movements fluid and assured. Chloe stumbled a few times at first, her nerves getting the better of her, but soon she found the rhythm, syncing with him effortlessly. During the dance, she felt his eyes fixed on hers, intense and unwavering, and for a moment she forgot everything around her, the guests, the plan, the pretense. "You're doing better than I expected," Michael commented, breaking the silence with a hint of approval. Chloe laughed lightly, trying to hide her nervousness. "And you dance better than I imagined." Their exchange was interrupted when Stella approached once more. "Michael, may I steal your date for a moment?" Michael seemed to hesitate, a flicker of protectiveness in his eyes, but he nodded. "Sure. Don't take too long." Chloe followed Stella to a more secluded corner of the venue, the bride's calculated smile putting her on edge. She knew the moment of truth had arrived. "So, Chloe," Stella began, crossing her arms, "what's your story? Where did Michael find you?" "Sorry, I don't understand the question," Chloe responded, staying calm and composed, refusing to be baited. "Oh, you understand." Stella stepped closer, her voice dripping with insinuation. "He's always been good at choosing pieces on the board. You seem convenient." Chloe felt her blood boil, but she didn't show it, keeping her expression neutral. "I think Michael should answer for his choices." The direct response surprised Stella, who laughed softly, though it lacked warmth. "Well, he always liked challenges. Good luck, dear." Chloe returned to the table feeling uneasy, her mind racing, but she tried to hide it from Michael. He immediately noticed something was off. "What did Stella say?" he asked, looking concerned for the first time. "Nothing I couldn't handle," Chloe replied, not giving details, determined to maintain her strength. Later, during the speeches, Chloe noticed that Michael was uncomfortable, his body language tense as everyone praised Stella and her new husband. He seemed distant, his jaw clenched tightly, lost in his thoughts. When their eyes met across the room, Chloe gave him a small, encouraging smile, trying to lighten the moment. Michael looked away quickly, but he seemed less rigid afterward, as if her gesture had pierced through his armor. "Let's play a game with those who only read the comments. Type chocolate in the comments. Only those who get this far will understand. Now, let's continue with the story." When the event finally ended, Michael and Chloe said goodbye to the guests, their farewells polite but strained. On the way to the car, he finally broke the heavy silence. "You did better than I expected."
"Thanks, I think," Chloe replied, her tone weary.
"No, I mean it. You." He hesitated, as if not knowing how to finish the sentence, struggling with the words. "You were perfect." Chloe didn't know how to respond, but she felt a strange warmth in her chest, a flicker of something unexpected. Despite all of Michael's arrogance and control, there were moments like this that made her question who he really was beneath the surface. But before she could think more about it, she knew something had changed that night, and the consequences were just beginning to unfold. Chloe woke up the next day still absorbed in a whirlwind of emotions from the wedding, her mind replaying every glance, every whisper. The night had been intense, a storm of feelings, and although she had managed to impress those around her, there was something deeply unsettling about Michael's behavior. He seemed trapped in a vicious cycle of pride and insecurity that made him unpredictable, especially when Stella's shadow loomed large. Michael, for his part, wasted no time getting back to his high-powered routine. That morning, he was already immersed in a meeting with potential investors, his focus laser-sharp on business as usual. However, the whispers about his appearance with Chloe at the wedding spread quickly through his social circles like wildfire in dry grass. Some guests, especially those close to Stella, began questioning who that mysterious woman was, their curiosity tinged with suspicion. Stella, ever the opportunist, seized the moment to fuel the rumors even further. In a seemingly casual conversation with an influential investor, she hinted slyly that Chloe might be more than she appeared on the surface. Michael has always had a peculiar taste for allies. "Is she there on merit, or is it just convenience?" she said with a malicious tone, her words dripping with implication. The rumor mill churned, and it wasn't long before one of the investors approached Michael directly during a lavish lunch meeting. "Your date at the wedding, Chloe, right? She seems very determined. Something tells me she has ambitions beyond you." Michael, already irritated by Stella's constant provocations, felt the comment strike directly at his pride, amplifying his insecurities. He knew deep down that Chloe wasn't a threat, but his own doubts, combined with the whispers he'd heard that morning, made him overreact in a way that was all too characteristic. That afternoon, Chloe was called into Michael's office unexpectedly. As soon as she entered, she sensed a tense atmosphere hanging in the air like a storm cloud. He was sitting behind his massive desk, eyes fixed on some papers, but his expression was harsh, his features set in stone. "You wanted to see me?" Chloe asked, trying to stay calm despite the knot forming in her stomach. Michael looked up, his gaze cold. "Yes, we need to clear a few things up." She stepped closer, bracing herself for whatever was coming. "What's going on?" Michael tossed some papers on the table with a dramatic flourish. "These rumors about you speaking to investors at the wedding, what exactly did you say to them?" Chloe was stunned, her eyes widening in shock. "Speaking to investors? I didn't talk to anyone except Stella and a few people who approached me." "And what exactly did you discuss?" he pressed, his voice laced with suspicion and accusation. Chloe felt her blood boil, indignation rising. "Discuss? Michael, all I did was act exactly as you asked. I was by your side the whole time, except when Stella wanted to talk to me." He stood abruptly, slamming his hands on the table. "So, Stella, of course she'd try something." And just like that, he fell right into her trap, his paranoia taking over. Chloe crossed her arms, incredulous at his outburst. "You're blaming me for something I don't even know happened?" "You went too far," he said, ignoring her attempts to explain, his anger blinding him. "I trusted you with a simple task, but apparently you can't help but draw more attention than you should." The accusation hit Chloe hard, like a punch to the gut. "Are you saying my presence hurt you? You're the one who put me in this position." Michael took a deep breath, trying to maintain control, but his anger seemed to take over completely. "Chloe, I think it's best if we end this here. Consider yourself dismissed." Chloe froze for a moment, the words echoing in her ears. "Dismissed? Are you firing me?" "That's right. It's clear our dynamic no longer works." The words were a slap in the face, cold and final. Chloe felt her pride clash with indignation, but she realized arguing with Michael would be pointless. He was too far gone in his rage. "Fine. If that's your decision, I'll accept it. But notice, Michael, you're making a huge mistake." She turned and walked out of the room with her head held high, her steps deliberate, but inside, she was devastated. It wasn't just about losing the job. It was about the way he treated her, discarding her like she was insignificant, a mere pawn in his games. The following days were tough for Chloe, a whirlwind of emotions that left her reeling. Despite her anger simmering just below the surface, she knew she needed to bounce back quickly. Without the job, her savings wouldn't last long, and she refused to let Michael's cruelty define her future. Instead of wallowing in defeat, she decided to channel the situation as fuel to turn her life around, transforming pain into purpose. Chloe began working on a project she'd long had in mind but never pursued, sustainable decor using recycled materials, blending her creativity with a passion for the environment. She created a small collection of pieces, unique lamps, wall art, and furniture that quickly caught attention when she posted them on social media, her designs resonating with people seeking eco-friendly beauty. Within weeks, her work began to gain visibility. Orders started pouring in from unexpected places, and she felt a spark of hope igniting. Meanwhile, Michael faced increasing pressure in his company, the weight of his decisions bearing down. The insecurity caused by Stella's lingering presence and the persistent rumors from the wedding continued to undermine his credibility, chipping away at his empire. Though he wouldn't admit it even to himself, he found his thoughts drifting to Chloe often, replaying their interactions. There was something about her, the determination he saw in her eyes when she left his office, standing tall despite his harsh words, that he couldn't forget, haunting him in quiet moments. One morning, while reviewing financial reports in his sterile office, Michael received an email that caught him off guard. It was an article on a popular design website praising the work of a new entrepreneur, Chloe. He clicked the link curiously and saw photos of her creations. The pieces were innovative, full of personality, and reflected exactly who she was: resilient, creative, and authentic. For a moment, he felt a mix of admiration and unease wash over him. Chloe was thriving on her own without relying on anyone, especially not him, while his own life felt increasingly out of control, hollow despite his wealth. That evening, Michael attended a high-profile business event, but he felt distant, disconnected from the conversations around him. During a casual chat, he overheard someone mention Chloe's name again, praising a rising star. It was as if no matter how much he tried to push her from his mind, he couldn't escape her influence. It followed him everywhere. Frustrated and intrigued, he decided he needed to see her, to understand how she had bounced back so quickly from his betrayal. Meanwhile, Chloe was working tirelessly to grow her business, her small studio buzzing with activity. The pain and wounded pride she'd felt after being dismissed by Michael had turned into powerful motivation, driving her forward. She knew she didn't need his validation or anyone else's to succeed. She was proving it every day with her hands and her heart. But when she heard the sound of a message on her phone, her heart nearly stopped. It was from Michael. Chloe stared at Michael's message for a few seconds, her heart racing with a mix of anger and surprise. After weeks of silence, there he was, wanting to talk. But why? What did he want after discarding her so easily without a second thought? Determined not to let it affect her hard-won peace, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio she had set up in her living room was beginning to feel too small. With orders for her sustainable decor pieces growing daily, she could barely keep up with the demand. It was exhausting, but it also made her feel empowered, like she was finally in control of her life, steering her own ship. Meanwhile, Michael couldn't concentrate, his mind a tangle of regrets. Chloe had turned down his attempt to reach out, and it bothered him more than he wanted to admit, gnawing at his ego. He tried to justify his growing interest in her as mere curiosity. After all, it wasn't common for someone he fired to leave his orbit and succeed so spectacularly on their own. But there was something more, something deeper he couldn't ignore. He couldn't forget the look in her eyes during their last conversation when she stood up to him with such courage and determination. It was a complete contrast to the people around him, always flattering or interested only in what he could offer them materially. Chloe was different, genuine, and that intrigued him, pulling him in like a magnet. "Mr. Carter," his assistant said, interrupting his thoughts with a knock on the door. "The investor you mentioned wants to schedule a meeting." Michael nodded distractedly. "Yes, sure. Schedule it for tomorrow." But his mind was still on Chloe. He decided he needed to see her face to face, not to apologize, as that wasn't something he did easily, but to understand how she had bounced back so quickly, defying his expectations. The next morning, Chloe was organizing a new batch of orders, her hands busy with materials when she heard a knock at the door. Her heart raced when she saw Michael on the other side through the peephole. She took a deep breath before opening it, steeling herself. "What are you doing here?" she asked, crossing her arms defensively. Michael was as impeccable as always, but there was something softer in his expression, a crack in his usual armor. "We need to talk, Chloe." She let out a short, humorless laugh. "You made it clear what you think of me, Michael. I don't see what we have to discuss." "I was wrong," he said, surprising her with the admission. "About a lot of things." Chloe raised an eyebrow, skeptical and guarded. "Is this an attempt to apologize?" He hesitated, but nodded slowly. "In a way, yes. I was impulsive and unfair to you." "Impulsive and unfair?" she repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You accused me of something I didn't do, humiliated me, and fired me without even listening to me." Michael lowered his gaze, clearly uncomfortable, shifting his weight. "I know. I was a jerk." Chloe took a deep breath, trying to stay composed amid the rush of emotions. "Why are you here, Michael? Do you want to hire another pawn for your selfish plans?" He shook his head, frustrated with himself. No, that's not it. I saw what you're doing, Chloe. Your work, it's amazing. I had to see you. And what? She interrupted, pressing him. Want to take credit for my success now? Michael stepped back, as if her words had struck him physically. No, I just wanted to say I admire what you've done. You got back up even after what I did. The sincerity in his voice disarmed her for a moment. She watched him closely, trying to understand his motives. Michael, the man who always seemed so confident and untouchable, now stood before her with an expression she had never seen before, vulnerability. Admiration doesn't change anything, Michael, Chloe said firmly. I built this on my own without anyone's help, and you were just an obstacle I had to overcome. He nodded, accepting her words without argument. I know. But I hope one day you'll forgive me. Chloe didn't respond. She just closed the door, leaving Michael outside, alone with his thoughts. In the following days, Chloe threw herself into her work with renewed vigor, trying to forget the unexpected encounter with Michael. No matter how hard she tried, he kept invading her thoughts. The way he seemed genuinely sorry was something she hadn't expected from a man like him. Michael, on the other hand, was determined to make amends in his own way. He started researching more about Chloe's work and realized the positive impact she was having with her creations, inspiring change in small but meaningful ways. Inspired by her example, he decided to use his influence to support sustainable projects, something he had never considered before, shifting his focus from pure profit. In a high-stakes meeting with a group of investors, he presented a bold proposal to fund small entrepreneurs with innovative, eco-friendly ideas. We need more projects that make a difference, he said, surprising even himself with the passion in his voice. Meanwhile, Chloe received an unexpected invitation to showcase her work at a local design event. It was her first opportunity to present her creations to a larger audience, and she was nervous but excited, her heart pounding with anticipation. On the night of the event, while arranging her pieces meticulously, she felt a familiar presence behind her. She turned around and found Michael standing there. What are you doing here? She asked, surprised but wary. I came to support you, he replied sincerely. And before you say anything, I'm not here to steal your moment. Chloe crossed her arms, still skeptical of his intentions. Why? Because I believe in you, he said simply, his words straightforward and without pretense. Chloe watched Michael for a moment, searching for any sign that he had ulterior motives, but all she saw was honesty in his eyes. He gave a small smile, undeterred. I don't expect you to trust me. I just hope for a chance to show that I can be better. The event was a resounding success. Chloe received compliments from all sides and proposals from new clients eager to collaborate. Although reluctant to admit it, she couldn't deny that Michael's presence helped draw attention to her work, his influence opening doors subtly. As the night came to an end, he approached her again. If you ever need help expanding your business, know that I'm willing to invest. Chloe shook her head firmly. I don't need your money, Michael. If I ever accept your help, it'll be because I trust you, not because I depend on it. Michael nodded, respecting her decision without pushing. Then I'll work to earn your trust. For the first time, Chloe saw something different in Michael. Maybe, just maybe, he was genuinely changing, evolving beyond the man she once knew. The showcase was a milestone in Chloe's life, not just because of the opportunities it brought, new clients, media attention, and a surge in orders, but also because it was the first time she felt the true impact of her work beyond the confines of social media. Yet, Michael's unexpected support still left her confused, her mind wrestling with mixed feelings. She tried not to think about him too much, focusing on her burgeoning career, but somehow he seemed determined to be part of her journey again, weaving himself back in. In the following days, Chloe was busy with new orders and invitations to collaborate with local designers, her schedule packed and fulfilling. Still, the encounter with Michael at the event lingered in her mind like a persistent echo. He had shown a kindness she'd never seen before, but she knew that with Michael, kindness alone wasn't enough to erase the past hurts. While working on a new collection, her phone rang. It was an unknown number, but she answered anyway, curiosity winning out. Hello?
Chloe, this is Sarah from Urban Deco Designs. We'd like to invite you to lead a project in collaboration with a high-profile company. Your work is exactly what we're looking for. Chloe could hardly believe it. Urban Deco Designs was one of the top sustainable design firms, known for partnerships with major brands that shape industries. I'd love to. Which company is it? It's Carter Enterprises. The name made her heart stop for a moment, the irony almost cruel, twisting like a knife. Of course it was. Fate had a funny way of circling back. I need to think about it, she replied, trying to sound professional despite the turmoil inside. We understand, but this could be a great opportunity for you to expand your reach. Please consider it and let me know by tomorrow. Chloe hung up, trying to process the situation. Working with Michael meant facing everything she was trying to move past, the betrayal, the firing, the emotional walls. But the opportunity was too big to ignore, a chance to elevate her career to new heights. The next morning, after a sleepless night of weighing pros and cons, Chloe made her decision and sent Sarah a message confirming her participation. A few hours later, she received project details and a request for a meeting at Carter Enterprises headquarters. When she arrived at the towering building, a symbol of Michael's empire, she felt a mix of nerves and determination churning inside her. She wasn't there to rekindle personal ties. She was there as a professional, on her own terms. She took the elevator up, her heart racing, and was greeted by an assistant who led her to the spacious meeting room. As soon as she walked in, she saw Michael. He was standing by a table covered with reports and blueprints, but his gaze went straight to her, locking on with intensity. For a moment, he looked surprised, but then he smiled warmly. "Welcome, Chloe." She maintained her composure, keeping a professional distance. "I'm here for the project, Michael. Let's keep it focused on that." He nodded, seeming to respect the boundaries she set firmly. "Of course. I want you to see this as a partnership. Your ideas will be critical." The meeting proceeded objectively, with Michael presenting the project, a sustainable corporate building designed to minimize environmental impact, blending innovation with eco-conscious principles. Chloe took detailed notes, keeping the interaction strictly professional, though she noticed Michael went out of his way to highlight her input, something he'd never done before, showing a new level of deference. After the meeting, he walked her to the exit politely. "Thank you for agreeing to work with us," he said with genuine sincerity. "I'm here because the project matters," Chloe replied evenly. "But that doesn't change the past." Michael sighed, understanding her stance. "I know, but I hope that in time we can start fresh." Chloe didn't respond. She simply nodded and left, determined to keep her focus squarely on the work ahead. In the days that followed, Chloe threw herself into the project with unwavering dedication, leading the creative team with determination and fresh ideas. Her passion didn't go unnoticed. Colleagues and stakeholders alike praised her vision. Her interactions with Michael were frequent, but strictly professional, boundaries firmly in place. He seemed different now, more collaborative and less domineering, listening rather than dictating. One day, during a heated meeting, Chloe presented a bold idea for the interior design, innovative and eco-focused. One of the investors raised a concern skeptically. "This seems risky. Why should we trust this approach?" Before Chloe could answer, Michael stepped in supportively. "Because I trust her work. Chloe has the experience and vision. If she believes this is the best direction for the project, I support it." Michael's public endorsement caught Chloe off guard, a rare show of solidarity. She calmly continued explaining her proposal, eventually winning the investor's approval through logic and passion. After the meeting, she confronted Michael privately. "Why did you do that?" "Because it was the right thing to do," he replied as if it were obvious, no hint of ulterior motive. "And since when do you care about what's right?" Chloe retorted with a challenging tone, testing him. Michael gave a small, reflective smile. "Since I realized I was wrong about a lot of things." Chloe didn't know how to respond. His sincerity was disconcerting, chipping away at her defenses. As the project progressed, their interactions began to change subtly. Michael was more open, sharing ideas freely, and Chloe, though reluctant, started to see a side of him she never imagined existed, thoughtful, even humble at times. He surprised her with small gestures, like bringing coffee to meetings or praising her work in front of the team without fanfare. One afternoon, after a long day of work, Michael invited her to dinner. "Nothing professional," he said, noticing her hesitation. "Just a conversation between two people." Chloe thought for a moment before accepting, curiosity overriding caution. At the restaurant, the conversation flowed relaxed and natural. Michael opened up about his childhood, the relentless pressures, his challenges taking over the company, and even his regrets, vulnerabilities Chloe never expected to hear from him. "I always thought success was everything," he said thoughtfully, staring into his glass. "But lately, I've realized it might not be enough. Success means nothing if you have no one to share it with." Chloe replied without thinking, her words honest. "You're right." The exchange of looks between them was intense, charged with unspoken feelings, but Chloe looked away, trying to keep her emotional distance. It was still too early to let her guard down completely. The next day, Chloe was surprised by some news. One of her decor pieces used in the project had been featured in a prestigious design magazine. Michael made sure to praise her publicly, further boosting her visibility. However, Chloe realized that despite the progress, something still prevented her from fully trusting him. His change seemed real, but part of her wondered if it was just another calculated facade, a temporary mask. As the project advanced, Chloe knew the biggest challenge was yet to come, deciding if Michael truly deserved a second chance or if her heart was leading her astray. Chloe stood at the center of the conference room, presenting the progress of her ideas for the sustainable building with confidence. The project had advanced remarkably, and the trust she had earned from the team and investors was evident in their attentive nods. Every detail she proposed was met with praise, and even those who initially underestimated her were now convinced of her vision, hanging on her words. Michael, sitting at the head of the table, watched her silently, his interference minimal. He rarely interrupted Chloe's presentations now, but he made sure to show support subtly. His eyes were fixed on her, not just for her professionalism, but with something more, a depth that went beyond business. When the meeting ended, Chloe felt Michael's familiar presence approaching as they walked down the hallway. "You're doing an amazing job," he said genuinely. "Thank you," she replied, keeping her tone neutral to maintain distance. Michael hesitated before continuing, his voice tentative. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about what you said that night, about success and who you share it with." Chloe stopped, turning to face him squarely. "Michael, I'm here to work. Don't mix things up." He shook his head as if trying to control something he really wanted to express. "Right. But someday, maybe you'll understand what I'm trying to show." Chloe didn't respond. She just walked away, ignoring the strange feeling his words provoked, a flutter she couldn't quite dismiss. As the project neared its final stage, Chloe started to notice something unusual in the financial reports. Some budget decisions seemed contradictory to the sustainability message Michael emphasized so passionately. It wasn't something she could ignore. It nagged at her principles. That same afternoon, she went directly to his office, reports in hand. "Michael, can we talk?" He looked up from his computer, surprised by her direct tone. Chloe placed the papers on his desk firmly. "These numbers don't make sense. How can we talk about sustainability when we're cutting essential costs for it?" Michael took the reports and reviewed them in silence, his face tightening. "I'll check this with the finance department," he said, but Chloe sensed hesitation in his voice, an evasion. "You knew about this, didn't you?" she asked, her voice full of frustration and disappointment. He put down the papers and took a deep breath. "It wasn't an easy decision, Chloe, but we need to balance the budget." Chloe stared at him, incredulous. "You're sacrificing the integrity of the project to please investors?" "It's not that simple," Michael replied, looking uncomfortable, shifting in his seat. "I have responsibilities." "And I have principles," Chloe retorted firmly. "If you don't believe in what you're doing, then this project will never be genuine." Michael remained silent, visibly shaken by her words, his usual confidence wavering. That night, Chloe decided she needed answers. Michael had always been a complicated man, but there was something deeper about his behavior recently, layers she hadn't peeled back.
She started looking into the background of some companies involved in the project and found that most had long-standing ties to Michael and his father, old alliances that smelled of compromise. The next day, she confronted him again. "Michael, why are you so invested in this project? It's not just about sustainability, is it?" He looked away as if trying to avoid the question. "It doesn't matter now." "It does," Chloe insisted, her voice steady. "If you want my trust, you need to be honest with me." Michael finally relented, closing his eyes for a moment before speaking. "This project is a way to make up for what my father did. He always prioritized profit above everything else, and it hurt a lot of people. I grew up thinking that was the only way, but I don't want to repeat his mistakes." Chloe listened in silence, absorbing his words, seeing him in a new light. For the first time, she saw Michael as someone vulnerable, battling his own past demons. "Then do things differently," she finally said. "Show that you can be better." In the days that followed, Michael took concrete steps to adjust the budget, even though he knew it might deter some investors, risking his bottom line. Chloe noticed he was genuinely trying to change, committing to actions over words, but there was still a barrier she couldn't break through, a lingering doubt. Let's have a little fun with the readers. In the comments, type milkshake if you've made it this far. Now let's get back to the story. As they worked together more closely, the two began sharing more than just project ideas. Personal stories flowed naturally. Chloe opened up about her humble childhood, the challenges of supporting her family through tough times, and her dream of using her creativity to make a meaningful impact on the world. Michael, in turn, spoke about the immense pressure of growing up in his father's shadow, the failure of his relationship with Stella that left scars, and how meeting Chloe had shifted his perspective on many things, opening his eyes to authenticity. "You made me realize that success means nothing if you lose the people who truly matter," he admitted during a quiet break from work, his voice soft. Chloe's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "Michael, change takes time. It's not enough to say you'll be different. You have to prove it." He nodded earnestly. "And I will." At an event to showcase the project's progress, Chloe was approached by Stella, who seemed to attend every opportunity to cross paths with Michael, her presence like a thorn. "Looks like you gained more than just a job," Stella said with a sly smile, her eyes gleaming with mischief. Chloe took a deep breath, staying calm. "I've worked hard to earn my place, Stella. Maybe you should try doing the same." Stella laughed as if Chloe's response amused her greatly. Michael can be charming when he wants to be, but in the end, he always reverts to what he is, a man driven by his ego. Good luck trying to change that. Chloe didn't respond, but Stella's words unsettled her deeply. No matter how much effort Michael was making, doubts lingered like shadows. Those doubts deepened when he approached her shortly afterward, concern etched in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Stella has a special talent for being unpleasant," Chloe replied, trying to play it off lightly. Michael sighed. "Don't let her get to you. She's always looking for ways to hurt me, and now she thinks targeting you is the way to do it." "And why?" Chloe challenged, locking eyes with him. "Why does she think I'm important to you?" Michael was silent for a moment before answering softly. "Because you are." The words were simple but carried immense weight, hanging in the air. Chloe didn't know what to say. Michael seemed intent on making his feelings clear, but she wasn't ready to trust him yet. Her heart guarded. In the following days, Chloe focused intently on her work, but Michael's words stayed with her, echoing in quiet moments. He had been clear. She was important to him. While his intentions seemed genuine, Chloe knew she couldn't rely on words alone. She wanted to believe him, but her instincts kept her cautious, protecting her from potential heartbreak. As the project progressed, a major presentation event was scheduled to bring together investors, partners, and industry leaders from far and wide. It was a crucial moment to solidify Chloe's hard work and secure the financial backing needed for the final phase, a make-or-break evening. She prepared meticulously, reviewing every detail, knowing the night would be pivotal for her career and the project's success. Michael, meanwhile, was closer than ever. He not only trusted her decisions, but also supported her in every detail. His involvement collaborative,
At times, Chloe caught him looking at her during meetings with a softness she couldn't ignore, but she avoided addressing it directly. Their balance was delicate, and one wrong step could destabilize everything. On the night of the event, Chloe arrived at the stunning venue in a simple yet elegant dress that reflected her personality, understated but confident. The guests were excited, buzzing with anticipation to see the presentation, and she struggled to stay calm as she mentally reviewed the details one last time. Michael arrived shortly after, impeccably dressed as always, but with a more relaxed demeanor than usual, less rigid. He approached Chloe as soon as he saw her. "You look amazing," he said in a tone that seemed to slip from his usual composure, genuine admiration shining through. "Thank you," she replied, trying to keep the conversation casual and light. Before they could continue, Stella appeared with a smile that barely hid her intent to provoke, her timing impeccable as always. "Chloe, what a pleasant surprise," she said, as her eyes scanned the room appraisingly. "It seems you really found your place here." "I worked hard for it," Chloe replied, refusing to be intimidated, her voice steady. Stella turned to Michael. "And you, Michael? Still trying to prove something to me?" Michael stayed calm, but his tones firm and unyielding. "Stella, I have nothing to prove to you, and Chloe doesn't need your approval to be here." Chloe watched the exchange with a mix of satisfaction and discomfort. Michael had taken her side publicly, defending her without hesitation, but the confrontation with Stella seemed to rekindle old wounds, stirring up tension. As the event progressed, Chloe presented her vision for the final phase of the project. The room fell silent as she explained how every detail was designed to reflect the values of sustainability and innovation, her passion evident in every word. When she finished, the audience erupted in applause. Michael was the first to stand, followed by the investors and partners. Chloe felt a surge of pride swelling in her chest, but she also knew the night was far from over. Challenges lingered. During the cocktail hour following the presentation, Stella once again tried to steal the spotlight, this time approaching one of the investors and making insinuations about Michael's past. "He's always been good at charming people, but commitment has never been his strong suit," she said in a casual tone, but loud enough for Chloe to overhear, planting seeds of doubt. Chloe decided not to intervene. She knew Michael didn't need her defense, but Stella's words seemed to plant doubt in the minds of some investors, creating ripples. Shortly after, one of the men approached Michael. "Carter, it seems like you're changing your approach. The public support for Chloe was impressive, but considering your history, is this really sincere?" Michael narrowed his eyes, clearly irritated, but holding his ground. "My support for Chloe is based on her talent and work. If that's not enough to convince you, maybe it's time to reconsider our partnerships." His firm tone silenced the man, but Chloe, watching from a distance, saw that it affected Michael more than he let on, his facade cracking slightly. When the night ended, Chloe found Michael outside the venue, looking at the horizon with a tired expression, the weight of the evening evident. "It was an intense night," she said, approaching him quietly. "That's an understatement," he replied with a small smile, turning to her. "You were amazing." "Thank you." But what Stella said didn't help at all. Michael sighed, his shoulders heavy with exhaustion. "Stella knows how to hit where it hurts. She can't stand the idea that I'm trying to change." Chloe hesitated before responding. "And are you?" Michael looked at her, his expression serious and earnest. "I am. But not for her." There was a moment of silence between them, charged with unspoken emotions, before Michael continued. "Chloe, when I fired you, I thought I was protecting myself, but all I did was push away the only person who made me question who I really was. You showed me that there's a different way." His words were full of raw emotion, and Chloe felt her own barriers begin to weaken, cracks forming. "Michael, change isn't just about words. It's about actions." "Then let me show you," he said, his voice firm and resolute. Chloe didn't respond immediately. Part of her wanted to believe him, but another part was still stuck in the past, wary. "We'll see," she said finally, leaving the door open just a sliver. In the days that followed, the atmosphere at the company changed noticeably.
Michael started implementing bolder measures, like forging partnerships with sustainable organizations and cutting ties with suppliers that didn't align with the project's core values. Chloe saw that he was indeed turning his words into actions, committing to real change that went beyond appearances. One afternoon, while they were reviewing the final details of the presentation, Michael did something that caught her by surprise. "Chloe, I need you to know that no matter what happens between us, this project was only possible because of you." She looked at him, searching for any hint of insincerity in his words, but found none, only honesty. "Thank you," she replied genuinely. Michael hesitated before continuing. "I know there's still a lot I need to prove to you, but if you'll let me, I want to try." Chloe knew Michael's intentions seemed genuine, but something still held her back. Maybe it was a fear of getting hurt again, or maybe it was just caution honed from experience. The final days of the project were a mix of excitement and exhaustion for her. She had dedicated months to the work, pouring her soul into it, but now, with the launch approaching, she realized it wasn't just a professional milestone, it was a personal turning point. Michael had changed, or at least he seemed to have, yet Chloe wasn't sure she was ready to trust him again fully. The launch was set to be a grand event, covered by the media and attended by international investors and industry figures, a celebration of their efforts. As usual, Michael took on the role of host, but he insisted Chloe be by his side. "You're the soul of this project," he said during one of their final meetings. "I want everyone to know that." Chloe agreed, but with one condition. "As long as it's clear my role here was earned on merit, I'm not here to be associated with your past or your mistakes." Michael nodded, understanding her resolve completely. "Agreed. You've earned this entirely on your own." On the morning of the event, Chloe arrived early to check the final details, her nerves buzzing. The building looked flawless, reflecting everything she had envisioned: elegance, functionality, and sustainability intertwined. As she walked through the halls, she felt a mix of pride and anxiety swelling inside. Michael arrived shortly after, dressed impeccably in a suit, but with a hint of vulnerability in his eyes that Chloe couldn't ignore. "Nervous?" he asked as he approached. "A little," she admitted honestly. "And you?" "Always," he replied with a smile. "But having you here makes it easier." Chloe looked away, trying to avoid the weight of his words. There was something different about Michael that day, a lightness she hadn't seen before, as if he was shedding old burdens. The event began with speeches and presentations highlighting the project's innovative aspects, showcasing months of hard work. Chloe was invited to the stage to share her vision and how she had turned abstract ideas into tangible reality. She was nervous, her hands slightly trembling, but as she glanced at the audience, she saw Michael in the front row, his face filled with genuine pride, encouraging her silently. "This project isn't just about sustainability," she said, concluding her speech with passion. "It's about showing that when we work together and believe in the impact we can make, we can create something truly meaningful." The audience erupted in applause, the sound thunderous, but it was Michael's gaze that stayed with her, warm and affirming. After the presentations, a reception was held, and Chloe found herself surrounded by people eager to learn more about her work, their questions enthusiastic. She answered everyone with patience, but her attention kept drifting to Michael, who was across the room speaking with a group of investors, his demeanor confident yet approachable. When she finally had a moment alone, Stella appeared as usual at the least convenient time, her presence intrusive. "Well, Chloe, it seems you've managed to impress. Congratulations." "Thank you," Chloe replied, keeping her composure intact. "But tell me, do you really think Michael has changed, or is he still playing the same game?" Chloe didn't answer right away. There was something calculated about Stella's tone, as if she wanted to sow doubt deliberately. "It's not your judgment that matters," Chloe said at last. "It's mine." Stella gave a quiet laugh, but didn't reply. She simply walked away, leaving Chloe alone with her thoughts, pondering. Shortly after, Michael approached her. "Stella's trying to poison your thoughts again, isn't she?" Chloe sighed. "It's not that. She just made me realize I still have doubts." Michael was silent for a moment before responding thoughtfully. "I understand. And honestly, I'd have doubts too if I were in your place."
Chloe looked at him, surprised by his honesty. Have you really changed, Michael? Or is this just another attempt to manipulate everything around you? I have changed, he said firmly. But I don't expect you to believe me just because I say so. I want to prove it over time. Chloe didn't reply. Instead, looking away, she tried to sort through her feelings. The evening continued, but her discomfort grew, a knot in her chest that refused to loosen completely. When the event ended, Michael walked her to the exit courteously. Thank you for everything, Chloe, he said, his voice filled with sincerity. This project wouldn't have been possible without you. She nodded, but his words didn't fully ease her concerns. It was good work, Michael, but that doesn't mean everything's resolved. He smiled, though there was a touch of sadness in his eyes. I know. As Chloe drove away, she glanced at Michael's reflection in the window and realized he truly was trying to change. For the first time, she felt that maybe she could believe in him, the seed of trust taking root. In the days that followed, Chloe tried to return to her routine, immersing herself in new designs, but she couldn't stop thinking about Michael. His actions showed he was keeping his promises, proving his commitment. One morning, she received an unexpected message from him. I want you to see something. Can you come to the building today? Chloe hesitated before responding, but her curiosity won out. When she arrived, Michael greeted her in the lobby, seeming nervous, something rare for him. What do you want to show me? She asked, crossing her arms. Come with me, he said, leading her to the building's terrace. When they arrived, Chloe was speechless. The space had been transformed into a lush garden with native plants and a relaxation area that looked like something out of a dream, serene and inviting. I wanted this project to have something special, Michael explained, something that represents what I've learned working with you. Chloe turned to him, still absorbed in the beauty. This is amazing, Michael. Thank you. But this isn't just about the project. It's about you. Chloe felt her heart race. Michael, I know I still have a long way to go, he said, interrupting her thoughts. But I want to walk this path with you if you'll let me. His words were direct, without the calculated tone she once feared. Chloe took a deep breath, feeling her internal barriers begin to crumble fully. Maybe I can give it a chance, she said finally. But that doesn't mean it will be easy. Michael smiled, a genuine smile full of hope and relief. Nothing worthwhile is easy, Chloe. The partnership between Chloe and Michael seemed stronger than ever, but Chloe remained cautious. That moment on the terrace had been symbolic, but she knew trust couldn't be rebuilt in a single day. It required consistency. Michael, on the other hand, seemed determined to show that his transformation was genuine, going above and beyond. The following weeks were intense. The project was gaining more recognition, and Chloe was constantly invited to events, interviews, and new partnerships, her star rising. Michael made sure that all the credit went to her, highlighting her talent and dedication whenever he had the chance, never stealing the spotlight. However, something still bothered her. Michael was trying too hard, as if attempting to make up for years of mistakes in just a few weeks. Chloe didn't know if this was due to genuine regret or just an effort to impress her, a lingering question. One day, Michael asked Chloe to accompany him to a meeting with new investors. I don't want to present anything without you, he said earnestly. Chloe hesitated but agreed, seeing it as part of their collaboration. The meeting took place in an elegant restaurant, and the investors were influential figures interested in supporting more sustainable projects. Chloe presented her ideas confidently, her expertise shining while Michael watched with undisguised admiration. When the meeting ended, one of the investors made a comment that caught Chloe by surprise. Michael, you found a real gem. I don't see this passion and authenticity often. Michael smiled warmly. Yes, she's unique. The compliment was genuine, but Chloe couldn't help feeling uncomfortable. She didn't want to be seen as Michael's discovery, but as someone who had built her own path through sheer will. Later, when they were in the car, Chloe finally spoke up. Michael, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I want to make something clear. My work and my achievements aren't tied to you. Michael seemed surprised, but quickly nodded. I understand, and I'll make sure everyone knows that. Chloe noticed he was taking her comments seriously, adjusting accordingly, which made her feel more at ease, respected. As they focused on wrapping up the project, an unexpected problem arose. One of the main suppliers was delaying the delivery of materials, putting the opening of a new phase of the building at risk, threatening timelines. Michael, determined to solve the issue, called an emergency meeting with the whole team. "We can't let this compromise our deadline," he said firmly, rallying everyone.
"Oh, any ideas on how to get around this?"
Chloe analyzed the reports quickly and suggested an alternative solution involving a smaller, more reliable local supplier. It might not be the cheapest option, but it's the most efficient. Michael didn't hesitate. "Make it happen. We'll deal with the additional costs later." The decision was risky, but it showed that Michael was prioritizing the quality and values of the project over pure profits, something Chloe noticed with growing admiration, a shift she couldn't ignore. After resolving the crisis, Chloe began to see a more consistent change in Michael. He was less concerned with his public image and more focused on ensuring the project's success through ethical means. Small gestures also demonstrated his transformation, sincere compliments to the team, ethical decisions in tough spots, and even moments when he admitted his own mistakes openly. One evening, while they were reviewing the final details of the project late into the night, Michael made a confession that caught her off guard. "Working with you has made me realize something important." Chloe looked at him curiously. "What?" "I spent years trying to meet everyone else's expectations. My father's, my investors, even Stella's. But you never expected anything from me. You just wanted me to be honest with myself." Chloe remained silent, absorbing his words, feeling their weight. "And are you being honest now?" Michael nodded with a small smile. "For the first time, I think I am." The final inauguration of the project was marked by an event that brought together influential figures from various sectors, a culmination of their efforts. Chloe and Michael stood side by side, receiving compliments and praise for their work. The night felt perfect, charged with achievement, but Chloe couldn't shake the feeling that something was unresolved, a final thread to tie. In the middle of the event, Michael pulled her aside to a quieter corner. "Chloe, there's something I've been rehearsing to tell you for days." She looked at him, puzzled. "What is it?" Michael took a deep breath before speaking. "I don't know where I'd be without you. This project, my growth, it all started because you came into my life and made me see the world differently." Chloe felt her heart race. "Michael, I don't think—" "I know I still need to earn your trust," he interrupted gently. "But more than that, I want you to know how much I admire you, not just as a professional, but as a person." Chloe was speechless. His words felt sincere, but she still wasn't sure if she was ready to let go of her mistrust completely. When the event ended, Michael walked her to her car. "Thank you for standing by my side tonight," he said. Chloe smiled, a shy but meaningful smile. "You're doing well, Michael, but it's not over yet." He chuckled softly. "I know." As she drove away, Chloe realized he truly was trying to change, and for the first time, she felt ready to believe in him. In the days that followed, Michael continued to surprise her. He got involved in social projects, supported young entrepreneurs with mentorship, and funded sustainable initiatives across the community, all out of a genuine belief rather than for show. Chloe could see he was doing it from the heart, not just to impress her, but because he had internalized the values she embodied. One afternoon, while working in her studio on a new piece, she received a message from Michael. "Come to the building. I want to show you something." When she arrived, she found him on the rooftop. He had installed a mural featuring images and stories of people whose lives had been positively impacted by the project, a touching tribute. "I thought this would be a good way to remember why we started this," he explained humbly. Chloe's eyes welled up with emotion. "It's amazing, Michael." He looked at her with a sincere smile. "Just like you." As Chloe gazed at the mural, taking in its meaning, she realized she might finally be ready to trust him again, her walls coming down. The days following the project's final event were a mix of calm and reflection for Chloe. The building was officially operational, earning praise from experts in architecture and sustainable design alike. Her name was now recognized not only locally but also internationally, something she'd never imagined possible when she started as a maid. Michael, on the other hand, seemed more distant at first, focused on new projects and busy with meetings to expand his business. But Chloe knew he was intentionally giving her space to make her own decisions, respecting her independence. While working in her studio, Chloe received an unexpected invitation to speak at an international conference on sustainable design. The opportunity was too significant to pass up, but it meant being away for a few weeks traveling abroad. Before confirming her attendance, she decided to talk to Michael, valuing his opinion now. She walked through the reception of Carter Enterprises and went straight to his office. He seemed surprised to see her. "Chloe, what a surprise. Is everything okay?" "Yes," she replied, "but I wanted to tell you something before making a decision." Michael set his papers aside and gestured for her to continue. "What's on your mind?" "I've been invited to an international conference. It's a chance to expand my brand, but I'll be away for a few weeks." Michael watched her silently for a moment before smiling broadly. "That's amazing, Chloe. You should go." Chloe felt a wave of relief at his supportive response. "Thank you. I just thought you'd want to know first." Michael nodded warmly. "I want you to know I'm rooting for you, always." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard, and Chloe felt a strange warmth in her chest, but she kept it to herself, not ready to voice it yet.